I wasn't supposed to be here, but here I am, living proof that sometimes the impossible happens. I'm Mary Burrell, a hospice survivor who found purpose in the fight and a voice in the struggle. This podcast is my way of keeping it real, sharing raw, honest conversation about survival, hope, and what it really takes to rebuild your life when you get that second chance. Whether you're navigating your own health battle, caregiving for someone you love, or just need a reminder that you're not alone, this is a space where we turn struggle into strength and stories into something powerful. Because a second chance isn't just about survival, it's about stepping into your purpose with everything you've got. Podcast is more than just conversations. It's a testament to survival, resilience, and the reality of rebuilding after a second chance. It's about navigating health challenges, the weight of caregiving, and the power of community. Through storytelling, we connect through advocacy. We raise awareness, especially for tricuspid valve health and women's heart valve health. And through community, we create a space where no one feels alone in their journey. You'll hear solo episodes where I lay it all out, alongside powerful interviews with patients, caregivers, and advocates who walk this path. Together, we're breaking the silence, shattering misconceptions, and making sure no one faces the journey alone. This podcast speaks to women 20 to 65 and older, caregivers, hospice survivors, and patient advocates facing heart valve challenges, caregiving, and the journey of resilience. Health conscious individuals and medical professionals drawn to patient stories, advocacy, and groundbreaking therapies like the Evoke. Heart valve health, especially for women, is more critical than ever, yet too many remain unaware of key risks like tricuspid valve disease, despite cardiovascular disease being the leading cause of death for women in the U.S. This podcast meets the urgent need for awareness, advocacy, and real patient stories, filling a gap where women's heart valve health and rare conditions are often overlooked. With over 80% of podcast listeners seeking authentic, relatable content, now is the time to create a space that educates, inspires, and connects women navigating heart valve health challenges and caregiving. The pilot episode, Hope Starts Here, Four Voices, One Mission, kicks us off with the medical breakthroughs, advocacy, and caregiving, showing how innovation, support, and resilience can transform the patient experience. Future episodes will explore the raw realities of hospice, life after the delicate balance of caregiving, while also being a patient navigating clinical trials and embracing medical innovations. Through advocacy and education, this podcast empowers listeners with knowledge and connection. Each 15-minute episode delivers compelling stories, heartfelt interviews, and actionable insights, creating a space for inspiration, resilience, and real conversations. By sharing raw personal stories with a focus on tricuspid valve awareness, a condition rarely highlighted in mainstream media, this podcast creates a space for real conversations about life diagnoses, caregiving, and medical breakthroughs. As both a survivor and a caregiver, I bring a firsthand perspective that's both deeply personal and universally relatable. This podcast goes beyond storytelling. It builds community by offering actionable insights, collaborating with advocacy groups, and amplifying listener voices to create a real connection and inspire hope. I'm looking to partner with sponsors, advocacy groups, and organizations passionate about heart valve health, caregiving, and patient advocacy. Through sponsorships, guest appearances, and co branded campaigns, we can work together to raise awareness and make a real impact. To support the podcast, I will incorporate sponsored content, ads, and listeners' contributions through platforms like Patreon. Down the line, I hope to introduce merchandise that strengthens our community and sustains this mission. More than just a podcast, this is a space for all of us where listeners can share stories, ask questions, and engage with experts. It's about building supportive community that lifts each other up. Hope starts here. Four Voices, One Mission is just the beginning. Follow the podcast on YouTube and share it with someone who needs a little hope and inspiration. Let's build this community together. You can reach me via email info@maryburrell.com. My website's at www.maryburrell.com. And you can reach me with social media on Instagram and Facebook as Second Chances, as Mrs. Avocado, or on LinkedIn as Mary Burrell. Hope isn't something we wait for, it's something we create. Tune in into the pilot episode and hear how four voices came together with one mission to inspire, connect, and prove that even in the hardest times, hope is always within reach. You've just stepped into a space where real conversations about heart valve health, resilience, and advocacy comes to life. This is Heart to Heart Talk with Mary Burrell, where we speak from the heart for the heart. I'm Mary Burrell, hospice survivor, patient advocate, and heart valve warrior on a mission to amplify voices, share untold stories, and empower you to take control of your heart health. Because when it comes to your heart, knowledge isn't just power, it's survival. So grab a seat, open your heart, and let's dive in. Because every heartbeat has a story, and it's time to tell yours. Pull up a chair and join us. I am so happy to have my daughter Azure with us today. She's been right by my side through every twist and turn of this wild journey. She's been my personal chauffeur, my advocate, and a confidant, all rolled in one. Whether it was getting me to my appointments or just being the voice I needed when things got tough, Azure's been another rock. Her mix of genuine care, humor, and straight from the heart wisdom has always made the hardest days a little lighter for me. This is a story of love, resilience, and what it truly means to show up when it matters the most. Hi and welcome, Azure. Thanks for being here with us today, honey.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Okay, so this is a good. I'm just going to ask you this question, and you just go for it, okay?
Sounds good.
So, walking beside me through this journey, you've been in the trenches with me through every twist and turn. What was one moment that really tested you emotionally, and how did you get through it?
I think I look at your journey of in two parts, or I guess three parts really. You've got the first part, which is our childhood, and then you've got pre-valve, and then you've got post-valve. And I think it looks different through those different phases of life. And I think one of the more poignant parts would be right before you got your valve. And I guess I'll explain and then we'll double back on why it was so important. You were in the hospital and it was one of your trips where you stayed overnight. And I don't recall how long you had been gone, but you had been gone for a while. And dad had just gotten off the phone with one of the doctors, and Nala was in one of the rooms, and it was just me, LB, and dad in the living room. And we're having a conversation, and I think it dawned on the three of us at the same time that you weren't going to be able to beat this, that whatever was going on at the time, and I think this is one of the many trips when you were in the hospital for like a week, maybe 2 weeks, and they were becoming more frequent and your breathing was getting harder. I think we all were just like very emotionally worn down, to be honest. And I think the reality of the situation had set in. And I think Dad, well, I don't think I've seen dad cry maybe 3 times in my life. And I can recall each time. And this was one of those moments where I think it all dawned on us at once that there is going to be life without you here with us. And that was a very stark moment. Um, Realizing that we were going to have to maneuver through probably one of our worst nightmares, but that there was actually going to be life on the other side that we were going to have to get through. And so that for me was, I think, one of the more poignant points of my life in caregiving, but then also just being a human. And having a mother who is terminally ill is not an easy life to live, but you spend so much time in the anticipatory grief, like she's sick, you got to do everything you can to help her get better and to like help make life as best as possible and to soak up every minute, every millisecond of the day. But you don't really ever think about like what happens after or like what that looks like. It's almost as if your life is going to end at that time as well. Um, and that was one that I think I'm still unpacking now. That had to have been 5 years ago because this was before you got the valve. I don't even think we had heard about the valve at that time. Feelings were very desolate. We were all kind of at the end of the rope. And I think that opened Pandora's box of like, what are you going to do? What does life look like? How are you going to continue on? Um, and I remember looking at dad and LB, and, dad apologized that we were going to have to go through this. And I don't even think LB said a single word. We all just kind of stood there crying and like we hugged each other. And
Mm.
it was like we had an entire conversation with all of 2 words. It was something I don't think I'll ever forget. Are you crying, Mom?
Keep sharing.
I don't laugh at you, but I laugh because I know you.
I know, honey. Keep
Um,
sharing.
I think that there is, and now you're going to make me cry, damn it. Um, there's a lot of unseen roles and emotions that go on behind the scenes when you have someone who is terminally ill in your life. I think it's very different when you are a child and it's a parent. Um, I think LB and I grew up much faster than most kids, and I think I also kind of attribute that to both of our success. Um, Unfortunately, we both were parentified pretty early, just out of necessity. And so we were in early elementary, or excuse me, late elementary. I mean, like knowing how to prepare food and taking care of each other. And I remember learning CPR and knowing the signs of a stroke. And I look back now that I'm a mother and I have a 13-year-old, and I'm like, wow, my child doesn't know any of that. I'm just now teaching her CPR, like getting her CPR certified. Um, and I think that that has caused a lot for me in terms of like, I'm now in my mid 30s and I'm a parent and I am unpacking my childhood like many of us do. And so, with that, there is a level of, I guess, recognizing that I am the way I am because I grew up being a caregiver. Um, it changes the way that you interact with people. I think that I'm far more empathetic than a lot of my peers, especially as a kid. Um, I think that we were hyper aware of accessibility issues as a kid. Like we weren't able to do basic things like go on a walk if there wasn't a sidewalk or if your mobility scooter couldn't make it. Um, I look back and I realize now that we were very mature emotionally and mentally, and our peers weren't. And so that is something that as a parent now I look back and I hate that for us. No blame, of course, but I hate that for us because in a way you trade your childhood. Um,
Mm.
it pays off as an adult. Like I said, we're both very successful. We have great jobs, influential in the community. Like I'm very proud of where we both are. Um, but having a parent who is sick as a child is a different experience. I think I appreciated the role that I played a lot more now that we are post valve. Like I said, there are kind of three. I look at your illness or caregiving in three separate chunks. We've got childhood, pre valve, and post valve. And I think now that we are post valve, and I say this comfortably that we can breathe, everyone can breathe. You can actually take a moment and look back at childhood and early adulthood caregiving and be thankful for the things that you were taught and the lessons and the empathy that has been ingrained in you. Um, I think now after going through watching you completely fall apart and then be rebuilt slowly, I'm now aware that as I grow older, you and dad are growing older. And that is something that is denied to so many people. And so there's a different level of appreciation that comes with being able to grow older with my parents, regardless of how sick they are. Um, but there's also a level of happiness, like pure joy to watch both of you live life in a way that you previously couldn't because you were sick, because you had mobility issues, because you felt like shit, because dad was too busy trying to raise two children, manage a household, make sure everything is together. And so now that we are post valve and now that there's a level of stability I don't think our family has ever experienced, it is fun to travel with you guys and it is fun to spend time with you guys and it is fun to be like, hey, let's buy tickets to this cool event and go do things and know that mobility, while all well, it'll always be there, it is not to the point where it is crippling the life that you get to live, but then also in a ripple effect the rest of us. It's almost like we're being given a new lease on life, and it's not even our life, it's your life. But we have to make up for 30 years of not being able to do so many things and explore life and experience so much that it's almost like you got to rush to do it now. And so like there's a lot of joy in that process. But there's also a moment, like a pause for the cause, if you will. I'm now aware that at some point, you and dad will pass on and we have to keep living. And I never, if I'm being honest, I never thought that growing up, even well into adulthood. It was always you're preparing for this moment and you know the moment is coming sooner than later. But now I realize, like, I have a child and I know that I'm totally going to cry. So I apologize.
Thank you for that, Azure. Hearing what that time was like for you while I was in hospice gives me a different perspective on everything. Let's stop here for now. This feels like a right moment to pause. In part two, we'll talk about what changed after that and how things began to shift. That's a wrap for today's episode of Heart to Heart Talk with Mary Burrell, where we speak from the heart for the heart. If today's conversation sparked something in you, a question, a revelation, or maybe even the courage to take the next step in your own heart health journey, don't keep it to yourself. Talk about it. Share your story. Start the conversation. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave a review to help more people find these conversations and pass this episode along to someone who may need it. And if you're all ready to dive in deeper, join the conversation. Connect with me on social media or visit www.maryburrell.com for more resources, support, and ways to take action. Because when we speak up, we spark change, and the world needs to hear our voices. And remember, your heartbeat is more than just a rhythm, it's a message. What is yours saying?